Hey, what's up, y'all? It's me here, Michael Franti, and welcome to this week's episode of the Stay Human podcast, which, as always, is presented by Gibson Guitars. I'm super excited, and I've just been looking forward to this for the last couple of days to be able to talk to a good friend of mine, Niko Moon, who is an incredible songwriter, producer, award-winning. I mean, you talk about it, he's done it. But now he's an artist of his own and is blowing up. And his music is really optimistic. It's full of good vibes. He talks about the challenges of life, but always with an ear to how do we get through it? How do we turn this, frown into a smile? And he's coming out on the Soul Shine at Sea cruise with us and so many other bands. Fits in the Tantrums, Arrested Development, Alan Stone, and Niko and myself of Good Nature, just so many great bands that are going to be on the cruise. It's going to be an awesome time. But before we talk any more about the cruise, I want to just go into it with Niko. Niko, how you doing today?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Thanks for having me. Awesome.
Niko Moon, man. So Niko, when you first toured with me back like 2010, man, it was this time when like, you were up doing your thing, you had your band, and I thought, man, you were going to go just to the next level. And then I just didn't see you for a long time. And then I get this call from my manager. She's like, hey, this guy, Niko Moon, he like toured with you years ago. And I'm like, oh yeah, Niko. Okay. I remember you guys want to get together and do some writing together. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I listened to the stuff that you'd been working on. And during those years, 5 or 6 years between the time when you first toured with me, man, you'd started writing with, you'd been writing with so many huge country acts. I mean, Zach Brown, for one, I don't know how many number ones that you penned with him, and then so many other artists. So tell me about you as a songwriter.
Man, I got lucky because I was born into a musical home, and my dad writes, my mom writes. So from literally the time I was, I have been I was in this environment where music was really appreciated, and especially the craft of how to make a song was nurtured in me. So, I really got to give a lot of credit to my parents for really providing that sort of an environment for me to grow up in, where music was so appreciated. So yeah, I've always been fascinated with it. My dad's main thing that he did was a drummer, and he was a touring drummer. And just watching him play drums as a kid, I thought it was magic. I couldn't figure out how all this was happening at the same time, how he was making all his arms and legs do all that at once, as like a 5-year-old. And I just always knew I wanted to do music. I wasn't really sure in what way, if it was an artist or a musician or a producer or a songwriter. I just knew I wanted to be a part of music in some way. Right. And I started, it's pretty much as soon as I learned how to play guitar when I was 15. I was never interested in like learning how to shred on a guitar and like kill solos and stuff. Pretty much as soon as I learned G, C, and D, I was off to the races on writing songs. That was way more interesting to me. Yeah. And, back then I was probably just writing songs about some girl at school that broke my heart or something, Yeah. But I feel like everything when you write, when you're in high school and you learn an instrument, everything's going to be super moody. But I fell in love with it. And then I got playing music in church when I was, I guess like a freshman in high school. It's kind of like a worship leader thing. And that was the first time I'd ever like played in front of people before. But I wasn't playing my own songs or anything like that. I was just playing like other worship songs and stuff like that. Yeah. And then when I hit college is when I started kind of playing, I started out playing coffee shops and places like that. Yeah. And then eventually I kind of progressed into playing bars and doing that whole thing, but still cover songs. I didn't have the gumption yet to put myself out there like that, because it you know how it is. It's a really vulnerable thing.
Yeah. To play your own song. You
to play your own song.
And you put your heart into it, whether it's something that's really emotional or whether it's just a song about having fun. You're putting your heart, your creativity on the line, and then you put it out there for the world to hear and the world to. You hope they love it. You hope they like it, but whether they like it or dislike it, there's still a judgment that's going to take place. And so you're like sitting there going, man, I hope I pass this little test, and I just put everything I had into this thing. And then, at the end of it, you don't know what the response is going to be. So it's really nerve-wracking to get out there and do your own songs for the first time. Whereas if you go up on stage and you sing a Beatles song, everybody's gonna like it.
Yeah, they're gonna like that.
And if they don't like it, it means you really suck.
yeah, totally. It's a vulnerable thing because you pour so much into yourself as an artist when you write a song, and if they don't like it, it's almost like they don't like you.
They don't like you.
I didn't want to take that risk, but eventually I started. I was like, you know what? I'll play like 4 or 5 covers, and if I get a really good response and I got the crowd really feeling it, I'll throw in one of mine.
Yeah.
But I was just playing in bars around Atlanta, which is where I grew up. I grew up about an hour outside Atlanta, and tell
me about that. What was the town like that you grew up in?
So the town that I grew up in was super typical, man. It's like there's a Walmart, there's a Applebee's. There's a couple gas stations. It's super basic, man, and it's
What's
funny.
It called?
One of the songs I wrote for the Zach Brown Band called Homegrown is about my hometown.
Okay.
And because I got to think one day, I'm like, why do I love this place so much? Because if anybody was to drive through my town, they would be like, that's it.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love where I'm from, and I was thinking one day, why do I love it so much? And then it hit me. I was like, all my family lives here. So many of my friends live here. So many of these memories that I got from growing up are tied to all these locations around this town. So when I look at my hometown, I don't see it the way someone passing through would see it. I see it with different eyes. And so I wrote that song, not so that they would think about my hometown, but so that they would think about their hometown. I kind of had this like a little epiphany that, where you're from is such a big part of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And if you could write a song that like really like made someone think about that and where they're from and kind of feel that connection, that could be powerful,
What's the name of your
town? I've always been interested in that kind of songwriting, like the simple but powerful type thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the name of your town?
Douglasville.
So population?
Hell if I know. It's not it's not like a one red light town with like 20 people, and it's not like a city. It's just like a town.
Are there other artists that come out of Douglasville, or are you like Douglasville's claim to fit? Like, are they going to put a picture of you on the water tower?
I'm about to get a statue of my town, bro.
Maybe just some graffiti on the water tower,
Yeah.
Niko came from here.
That's so funny, man. It's wild that this is the situation, but the town right next to my town is called Lithia Springs. Like literally 2 minutes down the road is Lithia Springs, and Lil Nas X is from Lithia.
Oh, wow.
So they were like our rival high school growing up. So that's the only other person that I know that's from.
You're not trying to start beef here, are you?
No. Hell no. I would be the worst like beef artist, like artists like Eminem, who's like just down for like to be like, I would just be like, you win, man. I ain't even trying.
You win, bro. Let's go have a beer.
Yeah. But it was Travis Tritt lived about 15 minutes north of me, and Alan Jackson lived about 30 minutes south of me. So
wow.
Yeah, so those guys.
You're in the Bermuda Triangle of music.
I was, yeah. It was like all these like country, these two like country gigantic superstars, especially at that time, were right there where I lived. And especially Travis, because I would see him sometimes around town. Okay. And there was something about it. It made the dream real. to see him because he was from where I was from and he did it. And he was as big as it gets, you know? So it made it attainable, you know, that it wasn't just a dream. If I wanted to be something in music, I really could do it if I worked hard enough at it. And so, yeah, but I was also like an hour from Atlanta and I love that whole vibe too. So it was a cool melting pot growing up where I did. I'm really grateful that I got to grow up where I did because I just got to be exposed to a lot of local music that was really varied. And it really affected the way I think about music, you know? So, yeah.
So when you're a kid and you're growing up in this house and, you know, you're surrounded by music, and did you have brothers and sisters also?
No, only child. My mom,
Only child.
Yeah, my mom got sick about a year after I was born, and they wanted to have more than one kid, but she got sick and had to, you know, have surgery and everything, so she couldn't have any more kids. So they were stuck with me.
Well, they made a good one. That's the good thing. So you're growing up as a kid and you're in this house surrounded by music. And at what point did you think, man, I want to pick this thing up? Or was it like as long as you could remember that you just started playing, or was there a certain point that you could identify like, you know, I think I want to like try this, like have a go at it?
Yeah, so drums was the first thing I learned how to play, and that's because my dad's main instrument was drums. And kind of like I was saying when I watched him.
Was there always a drum set up at your house?
Yeah, there's always a drum set in the garage, and watching him play was just so fascinating. And I would get on there and just kind of, you know, and I was determined. That's the one thing that I don't know if I just got OCD or what, but I get very obsessed with things. And once I kind of catch interest in a thing, I kind of can't let it go till I figure it out. And once I kind of wanted to learn how to play drums, I just would just be in the garage on his drum kit all day while he was, you know, when he would be at work, just trying to figure it out, and finally kind of like figured out how to make a little groove and everything. And I think that's why I think so drum focused now with my music, is because that's my first instrument. So I think real percussively, production wise. And then he was playing guitar too. So when I was about 15, I was just like, you gotta teach me how to play guitar. And I'm left-handed. And it's the only thing I play left-handed. The only thing I do everything left-handed. I write, I throw, I eat, everything left-handed. But I even play drums left-handed. But guitar, I play right-handed because my dad's right-handed, and the guitar in our house was a right-handed guitar. So, and I didn't have the patience to wait for Christmas for him to buy me a left-handed guitar. Cause like I said, I'm obsessive. So once I caught the bug for guitar, that was it. And so I just started figuring it out on his guitar. And yeah, I fell in love with it. I've always been in love with music. I was always fascinated with it. Even before I learned how to play instruments, just being a little kid, I would just obsessively listen to music all day, all night. And just try to, I don't know, I was just so enamored with it. It was just, I couldn't put my finger on why back then, you know, but it just made me feel more than anything else in life made me feel. I felt so much emotion when I listened to music. And at that time, I don't think as a little kid, I didn't realize that that's what I wanted to do with life. But looking back on it, that I had no choice. But looking back on it, that
the domino had already fallen, right?
Yeah, I had already fallen in love with it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you were a kid, like especially like in your adolescent years, you know, what was the hardest part for you of growing up? What was the biggest, you know, challenge in your life, in your family, in school, friends?
Yeah, I was I ran track all through school growing up as a kid. So if you were to go back to my high school or like talk to people I went to high school with and ask who I was, you know, they would, you know, in high school, everybody's like knew me as, oh, that's that kid that runs. You know? I won state in the mile in high school.
Wow.
And so yeah, man. I got a full scholarship to college for track. And so it was kind of what I was known for. And music was a secret. I didn't, no one knew I did music. It was something I did when I went home from school and just kind of did by myself. So, but I was always kind of like, I wasn't popular and I wasn't not popular.
Mm-hmm.
I was like just one of the kids in school, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
there,
Sure. Yeah.
And uh, I'm a like kind of a mix of a lot of different things. And so ethnically, growing up in the country and my school was probably like, 96%, white kids. And, I'm just like, I'm a little tan, so like
Yeah.
people weren't really sure, like, are you Spanish? Are you, what are you? Uh,
Yeah.
so I kind of like, I don't know. I always kind of felt different in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got a lot of Mediterranean blood in me. So,
Yeah.
and there's not a big Lebanese population in Douglasville, Georgia.
Well,
But
so how did you relate to other kids from a musical perspective? Like, did you find other kids who were making music in their house? Did you, or just it just wasn't a thing? You just did it on your own completely, or did you already start having bands in high school?
yeah, eventually I ended up kind of talking about the fact I did music, and then found out that some of the guys on my track team also were kind of like fiddling around with music. One
Wow.
guy was fiddling around with drums, and one guy was fiddling around with bass. And so we didn't like form a band, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
We never played for anybody, but we would go over to each other's garages and jam out.
Yeah.
And we would just like play like Nirvana and like, like just cover music, and
Yeah.
but that was a big moment, I think, because that feeling of making music with other people,
Yeah.
was a big thing. I mean, you're like, oh my God, like, and then all of a sudden these dreams, like, we could be a band, we could like become the next whatever, and you get all these dreams. And then so that's when I kind of like, that was getting close to my senior year of high school. And that's when I started really kind of sharing the fact that like I was doing music for real. And I found some other kids at school who were really into music a little more and were a little more advanced at it. But they were they were really into like punk music. Blink-182 was the thing. And that's what they were into. And so I joined their band because that was pretty much like the best musicians at my school was these kind of like punk rock guys, pop punk guys, I guess you would call it. And they needed a bass player. So I played bass in the band, and I didn't sing. I sang harmonies, but I sang for them, but they didn't think I was good enough to be the lead singer. So, which looking back on it, they were right. I mean, I'd be a terrible punk singer. But man, I dyed my hair blonde. Man, I had the frosted blonde tips, and I went full punk, man. Like, or as much as a little kid in high school thinking that he's going punk can do,
Yeah.
But we played it like our high school talent show, and we would play it like there would be churches in our town who would have like on the weekend they would have like punk bands playing or in their like youth building or something, and there'd be parents in the back of the room. It's like it was that kind of thing,
full Hot Topic, right?
Yeah, full Hot Topic, man. Yeah, we were moody, man, and yeah, so that's kind of what I did. And then when I went to college was right around the time I started really getting into acoustic driven music. And like that's when like John Mayer came out and Jack Johnson came out and Ben Harper and all that music.
And were you running track? Did you go to school and run?
Yeah, I went to Sanford University in Birmingham, and so I was running track in college. But the thing was, I had become so obsessed at that point with doing my thing that I was just staying in my dorm room. I didn't really make many friends at my school. I thought I was going to, but I was one of the kids who got to college and it was a very nice school, I guess you would say. Like, I don't want to say preppy, but it was kind of preppy, it was like very like everybody's wearing cardigans and sweaters and stuff.
Wow.
And I'm like this little kind of like I came from a real working class family, and I was like a musician kid, and so I kind of didn't fit in with anybody at the college. And
Yeah.
so I just kind of hung out with myself a lot in my dorm room, learning tablature online on how to play all these songs that I really liked, and working on writing my own little ditties and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And that's when I really got zoned in on acoustic music. And I was traveling home a lot to play it at my church. And then, I never went to class. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I
Yeah.
was thinking, but I literally never went. And I got a 0.3 at the end of my freshman year.
0.3, man.
I don't even know where the 0.3 came from.
Yeah, what did you get?
But man, I was 19, but I was like 12 in my brain, man. I was so immature. And
hey, I want to talk to you about the sports element, because I don't talk about this a lot, but I got a scholarship to play basketball at the University of San Francisco, and I had a very similar situation. So I went from having a little high school kind of mess around band. We, played just a couple little gigs, and then went to University of San Francisco. My dorm room was right above the campus radio station, and my roommate, who by the way was 7 feet tall, and I'm 6'6", and he played guitar. And if you can imagine like a full Fender Stratocaster, it looked like a ukulele when he held it. It was so funny, just to see this big dude playing this little guitar, but he was really good. Like he got really good at it. And he really inspired me to pick up a bass. So I bought a bass at a pawn shop and bought an amp, and I would sit there and just mess around, and I would listen to the bass lines coming up through the floor of the radio station, and I would just try to pick out the bass lines, and that was how I kind of try to copy it, and that's how I got into playing instruments. But sports, I had a similar experience. I got to school, and sports in college is different than sports in high school. Everybody in high school does sports for two reasons: one, because you just love it, or two, because you like the people you're doing it with, or maybe even three, you just want to try to get girls because you think like, if I do good at this sport, so there's no business to it. It's just like, I'm doing this because I love it, and it's fun, and it's cool, and people go, well, that's good, great job, great race, or great game, or whatever, and you get some attention for it. But then when you go to college, it's like it becomes more of a business, and the coaching is real intense, and the coaches' jobs are dependent on, molding these 18-year-old kids into quote unquote winners, and if they have winning teams, they keep their job. And if they don't, they lose their job, and their family's got to move to another town, or they go hungry or whatever. So it becomes more serious. So for me, being in college, I kind of lost that love and that desire to be in it. And music became so exciting to me and so vibrant because I could say what I wanted to say. And sports, of all places, especially at the time when I was doing it, was the last place you could say. It's like you had to conform, and you had to, wear what they told you to wear. And when you went to away games, you had to wear a tie. And when it's like, it's different now. But at the same time, I still love sports. And what sports gave to me was that discipline. I mean, the mile is a hard race. When I ran track, I ran the mile. I ran 400 meters. I ran 880. I ran hurdles in high school. But the mile, I remember running it one time and just being like, I will never do this again. It is such a painful race. It's like it's basically a 4 times around the track sprint, and you do. Yeah, I mean, there's strategy, and you do have to like pace yourself. But at the end of the day, it's a fast race, it's hard.
It's only 4 minutes, so you're running pretty quick.
It's not like running a marathon or even cross country where you're really pacing yourself and focusing on trying to have a kick at the end. It's like, it's fast, and it's painful, and it requires a lot of discipline in the training. How did that shape who you are, and how has that shaped you as a musician?
That's a great question, man, because I feel like I owe a lot to running for kind of like instilling this sense of tenacity, because it's a kind of sport where you're kind of on your own. It's not a team sport type of thing. You're just kind of by yourself, and you're hurting, and if you want to slow down, you can just slow down, you know, but if you want to win, you gotta push yourself. And, I ended up, you know, being the captain of my team. And so that was my first time being kind of like in a leadership role, which
Mhm.
ended up, I think, really helping a lot now, kind of being a band leader and having a bunch of guys and kind of being the coordinator of that, you know. So a lot of lessons kind of carried over from running into music. But the same thing happened with me when I got to college. It was very businessy, and I didn't like that. And I started falling out of love with running and falling deeper in love with music. So very similar story.
Yeah. You know, as a as a musician today, I still really follow sports. You know, I love the NBA, I love NFL, I love Major League Baseball, I love watching volleyball, I love the Olympics, I love the X Games. It's like I see in it the, I guess, like, the, for lack of a better word, like the champion that comes out in people when they really try and do something and they really excel at it. And you see people who have reached their peak, that a lot of times, like, we're seeing people when they're already in the NFL or when they're already in the NBA or whatever, and you're like, that's like amazing. This guy just came out of nowhere, and he, or this woman just like ran onto the track, and now she's amazing, and she's in the Olympics and everything but you don't see all the backstory behind it that got them where
Yeah.
they are. And I see that right now with you, because you know, you put out your first EP, as and boom, you had, you know, a #1 song with Good Times. People would look at you and go, "Man, who's this dude? Man, he just came out of nowhere. He popped," you know. But you've been in the
Overnight
trenches
success.
overnight. Yeah, it's been like, you know, 15 years of overnight success for you, you know.
Yeah.
And so talk to me about that, your journey as getting into the music industry. So you're in college, you I presume you either you dropped out or they sent you a letter saying, "Bro, this point three ain't working, man."
Well, it's kind of like when your girlfriend breaks up with you, but you tell everybody that y'all decided to either you decided to leave or y'all
It was
mutually
mutual.
decided, but she dumped you. You know, that's what happened with me. I went home and told everybody I quit college, but what happened is I got kicked out.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I was so stupid. They came and they were like, "You gotta go now." And I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, you gotta go. Like, you can't stay here and fiddle around with your guitar in the dorm room
Yeah.
and not go to class." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so my parents were like, "Listen, you know, you messed up your chance, your scholarship. You're a grown man now, and this is gonna be some tough love for you. But you're gonna have
Yeah.
to. You can't come back here. You gotta go get a job and figure it out." And so, or figure out what you're gonna do. Are you gonna try to get a scholarship somewhere else and try to go to college? And I was just so not interested in college. I
Yeah.
was so just interested in music, and I was not interested in running anymore because of kind
Mhm.
of what we talked about. So I was just kind of talking to my friends, and one of my buddies was like, "Hey, man, you can move in with me. I'll let you rent one of my bedrooms at my house for $200 a month, and I'll get you a job working with me doing construction." And I
Mhm.
said, "Okay." And so that's what I did. I started working construction with him, uh, and did that for a long time. You know, I'm playing bars and everything at nighttime. So I'm kind of working construction during the days and gigging at night. And
Yeah.
I did that for a long time. And then on an off chance, I met Zach Brown of the Zach Brown Band because this was before he blew up as an artist, but he was from Georgia too, kind of a big thing in Georgia at the time, local guy. And he was playing this little bar at the University of West Georgia called The Mansion, and it wasn't a mansion, so I don't know why they called it that. But he was just playing solo acoustic, and I opened up for him. I got booked to open up for him, and I was excited because I'd heard his music. Someone gave me like a burnt CD of like a little work tape that he had made at his house, and it was cool, you know. And so he watched me open up for him, and he dug it. And then I watched him play, and the bar, you know, maybe fit 300 people, and the whole bar was, and he was singing Chicken Fried and all those songs back then, you know,
Wow.
he already had them. And after the night, at the end of the night, everybody was gone, and me and him were just kind of sitting at the bar. It was just us and the bartenders, and we're just talking. He's like, man, I really like what you're doing, man. Would you want to write sometime? And I was like, sure. So we started writing songs together, and that kind of started like a really long collaborative friendship between us of writing songs for the Zach Brown band. And then he asked me to come out on the road with him and open up for him. So I would do that. I would ride on the bus with them and open up their shows. And
tell me about that.
Was,
what was that like? You know, so you're going from, you know, just playing little acoustic gigs in you know, to basically the local whoever's there, and now you're opening for Zach, and Zach's career's taken off, and you're actually getting in front of crowds of people. And what was that like for you?
It was amazing. It was what I'd always dreamed for, because I was playing these bars every night and trying to get something going. But when you're playing these bars around town, you got to play cover songs. They're not original. They're not real original shows. And so if you play too many originals, people start getting mad. They're like, hey, play something we can sing to, you know?
Yeah.
So I was kind of stuck in this weird world where I was kind of playing these cover bars, and I didn't know. I was in Atlanta, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what the next step was, and I didn't know anybody in the music business. So I was just kind of like, I didn't know what to do, you know? And so I feel so lucky that I met him, and things were really taking off for him, because it kind of gave me a vehicle to kind of like take it to a new place and see what else was out there, and how I could kind of like move on to a better to like a bigger place in music. I loved what I was doing, but I felt like I had kind of done all I could do playing the bar scene in Atlanta, and it was time. I was hungry to like take that next step with my musical evolution. And he was at that place at that time when he took me on the road with him, where they were in one bus and they were playing like country clubs. So like maybe like 1,000 people to 2,000 people. It was like that size places. And it was, I mean, I was used to playing for like 100 people who were like half listening. You know, they didn't come to hear me. They came to drink, and I just so happened to be there in the corner playing. And and it was amazing. You know, it was a lot of fun. And that was the beginning of my real education, you know, my real college. I went to the college of
musical
Zach
hard
Brown,
knocks,
I guess you would say. You know, and they were so good, but not just him, but the whole band was so good. Mm-hmm. And so I got to watch how a band works with each other, because I never had a band like a real band, and how they compose music and how they wrote songs together, and how they put on a show, how they entertain the crowd, and how they would come up with moments in their shows to really engage with the crowd, how to put on a good show, you know. And I watched them go from I watched him from like solo acoustic to selling out Fenway 3 nights in a row.
Wow.
So it was the best education ever. And I feel really lucky that I got to be a part of helping them write songs. And then at a certain point, when had been on the road for them for a good amount of years, I reached the point where I felt like it was time to kind of like take that next step in evolution, you know, and spread my wings a little bit. And by that point, I was full-time songwriting for them, because when they took off and started blowing up, like I said, I've just always wanted to be a part of music, you know, and the songwriting door really just started going, or the songwriting car just took way off, you know. And so I just wrote it, and I was so happy to do so. And I really fell in love with helping them be the best that they could be. And it really was amazing, like helping someone else fully realize their thing, you know, because they were such a cool thing. And I fell in love with that, and I wanted to start doing that with other artists. So I decided to move to Nashville. I talked to my wife, and she was like, let's do it. We moved to Nashville. I signed a publishing deal with Warner Chappell, and I started writing songs with all kinds of people. And I had only written songs with one guy my whole life.
Yeah.
And now I'm writing songs with a different person every day. And it was like mind blowing, because I thought writing songs was a certain thing, but it wasn't. It was just the way that we wrote a song together. Yeah. And every time you write a song with somebody, as you know, it's a different thing every time. Yeah. And everybody's got their own way of doing it. And so I grew exponentially with the first year that I was here in Nashville. I mean, it was unbelievable how quick my songwriting kind of took off. because every day I was writing with someone different, and I had gotten so much street cred from writing with Zach that I was getting in rooms with #1 hit songwriters almost on the daily. So these were like very, very talented writers too. And so I felt like every day was a new brick on the wall on how to write a song and how to think about how to put a song together in a new way I'd never thought of before. And I was just trying to soak up as much as I could. And I did that for like 3 years. And then that was, I think around that 3-year point was when we reconnected and we started working on your record.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had really like come into like being a producer and being an engineer and being a songwriter when I was like hitting on all cylinders, you know, and was feeling confident in myself that I was doing my thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I had so much fun working with you on your thing. And it was a really great departure for me because at that time I was fully, maybe like for the past 6 months, I had been like really honed in on purely country. Sometimes I would work in the pop world and stuff like that, but for the most part, it was country. But I knew your sound so well because I had been a fan for so long, and we had toured together back in the day. And it's like so much of my heart is like in your style of music, you know, because it's such a big influence of mine, your style, that I felt like to write with you when I got asked if I was down. I was like, this is going to be like so natural. I know it's going to work because it's like a piece of my musical brain is like this world, but I never get to play in that sandbox. So I was so excited to get to play in the Michael Franti sandbox. And it was awesome, man. Like,
isn't it cool how
you write songs?
Thank you, man. Isn't it cool how music can do that? Can just transverse. I don't even know if that's a word or if that's the right word, but how it just crosses over, and the ideas and the styles could be different, but they when you get in there and start doing it, they all just blend together. I mean, you know, we like to think of music from a commercial standpoint or from radio standpoint of like, there's heavy metal over here, and then there's this large gap, and then there's rock, and then there's another large gap, and then there's soul, and there's another large gap, and there's country, and another large gap, and there's hip hop, whatever. But really, they all blend together. You know, there's only a certain amount of notes on the keyboard. There's only a certain amount of rhythms that can happen. But
certain amount of chords,
a certain amount of chords. But really, what makes it exciting is when they do blend over. That's how you get a Carlos Santana, is when you take rock music and you take Latin music and you put it together, you know, and then that's how you get, Shakira out of that working with the Fugees, and that's how you get, the Fugees working with, Sublime, and you get What I Got, and then from What I Got, you've got, other artists that are now, Revolution and other, it's like the degrees of separation are so narrow. And one of the things I love about your music is the way that you've combined trap music and acoustic songs. And I remember coming to your studio, and you're like, I said, what have you been up to? You've been working with any artists? And you go, actually, Mike, I've kind of taken a little break, and I'm like writing a bunch of my own tunes, and I got like a batch of like 6 or 8 songs, and I'm going to produce them this way. And you played me one song acoustically, and I was blown away. I was like, Niko, man, you got some great songs, bro. And then to hear them come together in the way that you described, of taking these elements of trap and hip hop and combining them with, now you hear those songs and it seems obvious, once it's done and it's on the radio, and it's like, but you and a handful of other artists are really leading a kind of a new movement. I don't want to say a movement, but or a genre or anything like that, but just a new style of mixing, bringing those different elements together. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's why I love working with you so much, because you're not a primary color. You're like if you're a crayon in the box, you're in that 264 pack, you know? And
that's it.
And I've always been attracted to artists that make their own recipe, and it's their own unique color, crayon. And it's like, this is my color. I'm this. I'm not red. I'm not blue. Like those are all great, but I combine them all to create this color, Yeah. And I think the best thing that we as artists can do to make the best music we can is just really take inventory of ourselves as a person and our life experiences and the musical influences that have made us who we are as a person, and then figure out what that sounds like when it's all one thing. And like when you add it to like also our life experiences and our mentally, like what we want to say with our music, when you put all that together, what is that? And the artists that can figure out how to put that all together and it makes sense, those are the ones that I feel like are the most original, and the most original ones are the ones that usually go the furthest because it's a new sound that no one's ever heard before. But when it really gets down, when you boil it down to the simplest thing, it's their being themselves to the utmost. That's why they sound like nobody else, because there's no one like you, right? You are you. You're Michael Franti. I'm Niko Moon. We're all very unique individuals. Everyone's unique, So if you just focus on being yourself, you won't sound like anybody else.
Yeah. I think about that a lot when I look at where music is at today. And, like, for example, you watch, America's Got Talent or The Voice or American Idol or something like that. And I think, man, if I went on those shows, I wouldn't even make it past the first round. Yet been a touring artist for 30 plus years. I earn a living like you said, by being myself. And think, would Bob Dylan win on American Idol? Like this guy getting on there and he's got a little harmonica.
How far would Neil Young make it on American Idol?
He wouldn't win. Would Willie Nelson win? Probably not.
Nope.
Would Metallica win? Probably not. It's like, so there's, like you said, being yourself is so important. Being your authentic self. You live side by side with an incredible musician, your wife Anna, who's has an incredible voice and is an artist unto herself. How is it that you guys have this, first of all, marriage, and second of all, your creative life, and then third of all, how do you manage the stresses of the music industry?
Yeah. So we met on Facebook because we have a mutual friend in Atlanta who's a photographer, and she was getting ready to do a photo shoot with him, and he had shot me recently, so he was showing her some of his work, and she was like, "Oh, who's that?" And so she friended me, but that was it. No DMs or nothing, just a friend request. And then I slid in the DMs and invited her to a show, and I was like playing a club in Atlanta, so she came out to the show, and that's how we met. And but she just hung around for like 5 minutes after the show, said, "Hey, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for inviting me out. Call me sometime," and then just left. And I was like, oh. and I was like, man, like that, she had me hook, line, sinker right there. And so I called her and we went on a proper date, and I fell in love with her really fast. And I ended up finding out, I didn't know this at first, but I ended up finding out a couple dates in that she was a songwriter and musician and aspiring artist herself, and aspiring songwriter herself. And so I grabbed my guitar, we're sitting in my living room, and I just handed it to her. I was like, play me something. And she starts playing, and I was like, what is happening right now? Yeah. Her voice was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. And that was like this other dimension to our relationship that began right there, where I started looking at her in this other kind of way of like this mutual respect as from one creative to another, not just on the romantic end of things. There was this other thing happening now of this like creative partnership between us, that has turned out to be the best thing she's the best thing that's ever happened to me, man. She saved me. Cause at the time I was partying really, really hard. I was drinking heavy. I was smoking heavy. And, I'm embarrassed to say this because as a singer, I'm supposed to be serious. As a professional singer, I'm supposed to be serious about my voice. Man, I was smoking like 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I
Wow.
was drinking like a fifth a day and just partying really, really hard, just living that life, you know? And she's who really encouraged me that like, hey, like you're really good and you should take this more serious. I was like, I am taking it serious, like
Mhm.
I thought I was taking it serious, but she kind of helped me to grow up. And like kind of how I said, when I was 19, I was really 12. When I met her, I was like 28, but I was really 19.
Yeah.
And within a couple of years, I like caught up to myself, caught up to my age,
Yeah.
and it took her to do that, but she really saved me. And it's been an amazing partnership. There's not really a line between husband and wife and songwriting partner with
Yeah.
us. Like we don't flip that switch. It's just kind of part of it since it was there from the beginning. So yeah, it kind of interweaves with our life, And when I
Yeah.
was deciding to make my record, I knew the vibe I wanted it to be, this like kind of Atlanta meets Georgia country thing. And
Yeah.
she grew up 20 minutes down the road from me. Like,
Yeah.
so I knew she would know exactly what I was going for sonically, because she literally grew up right where I grew up and kind of grew up in that same proximity to Atlanta and knew exactly what I was going for. So yeah, we started working on it together and we didn't tell anybody, I think you might have been the first person I told outside of her that I was
Yeah.
working on music for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of wanted to get it done first before I kind of showed it to anybody. Um, and then I only want to show it to a couple people around town. So that way, if it wasn't vibing, the whole world, I didn't have to let the whole world know I did this thing and it wasn't no good. Only 5 people would have to find out. But fortunately, they dug it, and it took off really quick from the moment I released my music to like getting a band and getting signed to a record label and going on tour was like weeks,
Yeah.
maybe a couple months. So
Yes.
it just happened super, super fast. And I've been overwhelmed with the love and support. And so it just feels good. And now I'm in this place where I kind of get to do what you get to do, which is
Yeah.
in my opinion, it's really a dream come true for people like us. We get to travel around the world, see all
Yes.
these cool places, experience all these different types of cultures, and meet all these new unique people every day in our lives. We're meeting new
Yeah.
people, having these new cool experiences with people, and we get to make music for people every day
Yeah.
and sharing that enjoyment and and support our families at the same time. It's like,
Yeah.
how could you ask for more than that?
Yeah. And that's the thing about it that I love, and it's the thing that I love about you too, is how it is about people and how it is music is the sound of emotions. And that's all we're doing. We're just putting sound to emotions and sharing them with people with the hope that they're going to feel it, that they're going to connect with it and be like, oh, man, that's it, man. I understand this. It makes me feel good. It makes me, jump up and down. It makes me laugh. It makes me high five a stranger. It makes me, want to share a joint with a friend and just feel good about life and walk out just feeling like a little bit taller. And that's, when we were working on the Stay Human record, that whole film and that record is all about that, about how we connect with other people and how we hold on to our humanity. And that's the final question I have for you is like, what does it mean to you to be human? And then how do you stay human?
Ooh, coming with the good question at the end. Who are you?
And then I'm going to ask
I
you,
like it.
which artists were your favorite were your biggest influences?
Yeah. I mean, man, for me to be human is to be myself. I think if I was to say it like in the most simple
Yeah.
way possible, and when I mean by myself is like the person that I want out of me,
Yeah.
So that means like someone that loves their family, loves their friends, is an encouraging person, tries to bring more good into the world than bad,
Mhm.
Um, I think we're always in that struggle with ourselves on realizing our full potential, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm always falling short of that, but I'm always striving to be the best me I can be. And so that's kind of what I mean is like when I say be myself, is to
Yeah.
be that the light side of myself, you know, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, man, you know, when it's all said and done, I want people to think of me in a sense of that I brought some good into
Yeah.
their life. Like when they think of me, they think of good things, you know, goodness, you know. So and that's it, man. You know me, man. I'm a simple dude. I'm not a complicated guy. I'm not with my music. I'm not trying to give a complicated message, you know.
Yeah.
Um when it boils down to it, you know, it's like the rhythm section is Atlanta, the instrumentation is Douglasville, and the message is like Marley, Franti, you know, this
Yeah.
let's love each other. You know,
Yeah.
life is short. Life is so
Yeah.
short. We're here and then it's over. So let's spend this little bit of time that we got bringing, you know, positivity to the world around us.
Yeah. Niko, man, I love you, and it's great to see your new success. I mean, you've had so much success of your career, but to see people or that people get to have the opportunity to see you in person rather than just a songwriting credit on the back of a CD somewhere, but to actually see you performing, being out there, putting videos and music out there. And I know you're very active on Instagram. Folks should follow him. It's Niko Moon, and check him out. And so thanks for being here today on the Stay Human podcast. I want to say a big thank you again to Gibson Guitars for of which Niko has single-handedly kept your company afloat.
I got a plethora of Gibsons.
Over the
You know,
last
my
10
go-to
years.
guitar that I play every night is a Gibson LG2 that I had them make for me. It's my favorite guitar in the world. Yeah, it's pretty much almost all that I play for the most part.
Nice, man. Gibson's doing amazing things, and they're actually just launching a like the House of Gibson in Nashville now. It's going to be really amazing. Folks can go.
Yeah.
There's
So if anybody's curious about the House of Gibson, my good buddy Mark Agnesi, who's the head of branding for Gibson, just released an episode. So if you go to Gibson's like YouTube, you can watch it. But he just released an episode where he gives a tour of the place, and
yeah,
I'm lucky enough I get to be the guest on that episode, and I was the first person that got to see it. And so he takes me around the whole place and shows it to me, and it's really really cool. There's like he showed me they got some crazy guitars there. Like for instance, they had in that building, they have the very first guitar that was ever on TV.
Wow.
Ever. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Some amazing, really cool guitars.
And
Like one of the first guitars that Gibson ever made.
Yeah. It's in
really
Nashville, which is where the Gibson is based. And it's an experiential. I don't even want to call it a museum because it's not a museum. It's an experiential place where you can just immerse yourself in the history. You can touch the guitars, play the guitars, and just see the evolution of both the acoustic guitars that Gibson has always built, but also the first electric guitar. And it's really amazing. So, Niko, thank you, man, for being part of the Gibson legacy, and thank you for just bringing great music to the world. And I just want to remind folks, Niko is also going to be on Soulshine at Sea with me and so many other great bands. Fits in the Tantrums, Alan Stone, Arrested Development, who I'm super excited to see. Remember, Everyday People, Mr. Wendell, like all those songs. Tennessee, they're so good live too. And it's basically, good vibes all day long. And there's all kinds of yoga and fitness and wellness activities in the morning that you can get involved in. And then we all turn into pirates at about noon, and we just jam out and play music till whenever we stop. So it's going to be four good days of good days at sea. At Soulshine at Sea. So go to michaelfranti.com if you want to hear more about that. And Niko, thanks for being on the Stay Human podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. I can't wait to see you on the cruise.
All right.